Brother assaults your eardrums.
Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 560. I am Ozone Ocean, and this week we have Chance, Baines, and Pit all together in the QUACKCAST. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
So this week we're going to be chatting about things that you can do in fiction and comics that really just don't quite work in reality. Which is quite an interesting topic. There are things that you can do in fiction and are great and work and are just expected and tropey and everything, but in reality it's just like, what the hell are you doing? So that's what we're going to be talking about. First, though, we have to get into the featured comics. Featured comic this week was a comic called Furder Boys. Furder Boys. So, Kwai, tell us about Furder Boys.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is Furder Boys by Hockey Webcomics, and it is rated E for everyone. Originating in the countryside of Ontario Province is a simple tale of a most beloved ice sport, hockey. The Furder Boys consist of Newton, Uehara, Furtado, Araujo, Almond, and Sarah, among other teammates drafted to the underdog junior C team. Lugging a heavy bag home after practicing for 3 hours on ice, and then reading comics until falling asleep by 8 is a typical day. Teamwork in hockey is summed up by sage advice in the comic. Your focus must be team achievements, not individual marks. The art is drawn in full black and white comic pages. A lot of care and attention to detail can be found in the backgrounds. Take a peek into the private world of hockey players and read Furder Boys by Hockey Webcomics, rated E.
And that was Furder Boys. QUACKCAST just telling us all about Furder Boys. I actually misread that as Federer Boys. So, because I thought it was about tennis. But no, it's about hockey. So thanks for telling us about that, Kwai. Alright, so next up we have the music. This week Gummalls has given us the theme to Furder Boys. Coincidence? I think not. So, yeah, pretty cool. The theme to the featured comic, which, happens occasionally. Sometimes it's the other way around, in that the feature is inspired by the music. Okay, so, Furder Boys. The sounds of a crowd ebbing and flowing, ice hockey sticks clacking, a whistle blows, and the action is on. Heavy piano, light drums, and soaring distorted guitar burn through this 70s sports ballad. Singing the plays while the match progresses. The music fades, and the crowd roars in appreciation as the puck strikes the back of the net. The sound effects here come from Zapsplat.com, a royalty-free sound library. So, Gummalls has asked me to say that. So, have a listen to Furder Boys by Gummalls. Mr. Gummalls, thank you very much for that theme. Pretty exciting piece of music. It's a comic by Hockey Webcomics, which is fitting. That's the name of the creator.
Yeah.
Hockey. So all of Hockey got together and decided to make a comic, and that's what it turns out. Hockey personified. So
I mean, with a name like that, when his parents named him that, like it was like meant to be that he would do a hockey-based webcomic.
well, his parents expected him to actually play hockey. It's an
So Mr. and Mrs. Webcomics were sports fans. Come on, Terrence, I'm trying. Don't be like that. Just teasing
Yeah.
you.
I didn't catch any of that. Sorry. What
Oh,
was that?
sorry. No, nothing.
I keep thinking of
He
that.
was making a pun on the names of the. What was it? I can't remember.
Ice hockey.
Oh, let's not relive it. It was too terrible.
Okay.
I keep
Sorry,
thinking of that thing that made you crack, Pit, and that's just going to stay with me forever. And I won't mention it on air because it's not for on air.
And I was just going on and on with foolishness, and then I saw Tenz's like stony face, so I was like, okay, I better try to get out of this.
You clown.
Am I
brains.
really there?
It worked. Didn't work at all. But yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, so this week the topic is talking about things that work in reality, well, work in fiction, but don't work in reality so well. So we talked about this in our Patreon video cast, and a couple of obvious examples were superheroes. So, you know, vigilantes dressed up in fantastic costumes don't work so well in reality. I mean, you can have vigilantes in reality. They do exist. They don't have superpowers, of course. But as soon as they wear funny costumes, it sort of takes away from the seriousness of what they're doing and sort of undercuts everything. So, yeah, it doesn't quite work. But in comics, the superhero costumes aren't a matter of comment at all. You know, in most comics, and some of them, yeah, they do try and be a bit clever and, you know, play off it, you know, in a realistic way, which I think is, you know, that's unnecessary. I mean, well, you can do anything you want in comics. You can play it off in a serious way. You could do no superhero costumes or whatever. Like, there's no judgment on that. It's not a bad thing. You can do it. It's fine. But in most superhero comics, vigilante comics, they wear fantastic costumes, and it's not regarded as something silly or crazy. It's just, you know, seen as being fine because we all accept it as a convention, and it just works.
Like, don't not write it that way just because you're afraid that people won't take it as seriously. I don't know. I mean, it's all up to you, but make sure it's a choice that you really want to make, and not just I'm scared. I don't know. Do what you want. I'm not your mom.
I like what you're saying, actually, because I've just run into this recently. Like, I do this comic chatterbox, and like my sort of pinup pages I was drawing as sort of to get ready and kind of figure out what the characters look like. Little CB was wearing a bright red jumpsuit. Lily wore a green jumpsuit. It's like, okay, it's a nice contrast. I have this like sort of antagonistic character who's going to show up soon. He appeared just in shadow, but he always wears a mask. He's one of these mysterious type characters who we've talked about before. And it's suddenly, I don't know, just lately I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, they're spies. Why are they wearing these like bright Christmas colors? That makes no sense at all. And how is this guy running around in a mask? Like, it's gonna make him stand out more than any other outfit would. So it's like,
It'll make their enemies think, no spy would dress like that, therefore they can't be spies, and then it totally throws them off.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Intense just said hiding in plain view. Yes.
Exactly. But yeah, go for it, because it's a comic. Whatever reality you say is reality is reality. Whatever you make the rules of the world. So you can't do that in the real world, but you can do that in comics because it's your world, and readers accept that. Like Pinky with her silly pink hair. Doesn't make any sense in that if that was a more realistic comic. But I make the rules, so it's fine. It works.
That is true.
Yeah, and her magnificent
Yes.
globes of glory presented to the world constantly. That's fine. That's in her pugnacious posterior in this alternative 1920s world, where of course that wouldn't have been seen as normal if it was a real 1920s world. I make the world rules, so it works, and people accept that. And one of the things is that I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Shit. No, one of the things is like colored hair. Okay, so colored hair is a thing that is in manga and anime. All these characters like blue hair, green hair, pink hair, all the time. Well, not all the time in all manga and all anime, but in most of it, it is a huge convention. And you think, well, are they born with that hair? Did they get their hair dyed? What the hell? But no, it's just a convention. And I think the reason why that convention exists is because obviously Japan is one of these places that is traditionally very there's not too much variation in the in hair color, things like that. People have black hair. That's just the thing. So it can make your characters harder to tell apart. Then you have to give them more, make people taller, long faces, short, and different hairstyles and stuff like this. So giving them different colors was a really kind of easy shortcut to do that. So I'm pretty sure that's why it happens, because when I've seen anime that is more realistic, all the characters have the same hair color, and even some of and it can be very hard to tell them apart, and they have to, then they have to work extra hard on personalities and like giving them different facial features and stuff like that to make them so they stand out more. Because one thing you notice about anime and manga is the characters tend to all have the same face. Like even males and females tend to have the same face. They don't have facial variation and stuff like this. They tend not to, there's not much variation in height or any build or any of this stuff. Only some characters have that. So yeah, that is my theory as to why the hair color thing exists. And it's seen as normal there. But even though people with different hair colors now has become a lot more common in reality, back in the day, it was quite unusual to have people have everybody having all, wild different colored hair. That was just not a common thing in reality. But, now it is, so that has changed. So that's one thing anyway. But I'll go on. Sure.
No, I agree that that must be the reason, like to easily identify characters. That's a good idea to give your characters different personalities. Just makes better stories, obviously. But if you have a main cast and you want them to be set apart instantly visually from each other and from the background of the, sort of background characters, then it's a handy way to do it.
It is indeed. Yeah, you're having something to make them stand out. So yeah, that's something that did grab me back in the day when I first started, really realizing that I was watching anime back in the 90s. Why are they pink and purple and yellow and green hair? Why? It didn't make sense to me. But once you as a consumer of fiction learn the tropes, then they don't stand out anymore, and then you think, oh, that is part of that's part of the world. That isn't something that it's part of fiction. It's part of the conventions of fiction. It's not something I should feel shocked by. I wonder if that happens with a lot of the other tropes as well that we see in fiction, and then we think, oh, actually, I don't recognize that from reality. That doesn't make sense. I can't actually understand that, and it takes you a little while to sort of understand that this is a a convention of fiction, and then it doesn't stand out to you anymore. I think that actually does happen. I can think back to watching, sitcoms and things, and thinking, oh, why does this character always why does everything reset? That's so strange. Why don't these characters progress? Why doesn't this woman leave this guy? He's such an idiot. He's always, being...
That's when you met my girlfriend, right? Not that I have one, because Oz told her to leave. Well,
exactly.
why were you saying that stuff out loud? That's where but oh, come on! I'm trying to be humorous. Just dumb. But yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I don't remember really thinking like logically, oh, this makes no sense or that makes no sense. It's like, to me, like I just accepted it. Like you accept it visually, like say The Simpsons or something. The crazy way they look, that's very unique. Like I have maybe a vague memory of thinking like, oh, how odd looking, but just for a second, like you kind of accept it. You accept what it is, and like that's the world, and at least for me. And then maybe you think about it later.
That took me a while to get into, though. Like when I saw The Simpsons and they had yellow skin, and I thought, why the hell are they yellow? It doesn't. This is weird.
Yeah, once it makes sense to have that thought. I don't know why I never.
It's called jaundice.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're very sick.
Get some vitamin C or whatever, vitamin A, I think. I don't know. It's liver problems, isn't it? Vitamin A. Yeah, well, it was freakish, and the 3 fingers too. They've only got 3 fingers on their hands, and for a long time, that was why. And they in the early episodes of The Simpsons, they used to reach out, and their arms would get extra long, and their bodies would be really stretchy and weird. And that was another like, whoa, that's weird.
But that recalls to like older animation, like even like old Bugs Bunny and stuff. That's been in animation for a long time, including like the 4-finger thing. But yeah, it's for some reason in Simpsons, it's a little bit more uncanny because they're like more realistic.
Yeah,
in a sense.
And it was poorly drawn too in the first like few episodes. It was really badly done. It was just shocking.
They didn't have as tight a handle on keeping everything on model between various animation studios and all that stuff.
Yeah. It was weird.
That's a good point you make about like vintage animation though, like going back to, Popeye, and like would that be 30s and 40s animation maybe?
Pretty sure.
All that jazz. Where it was like the rubber hose limbs and fingers and like crazy, like insane cartoon physics and all that stuff.
Stretch and bounce.
Yeah. Like why do a cartoon? Why do animation if you're going to be bound by real life physics?
Yeah, then just like watch a movie. I don't know.
Well, if you like you're saying with Popeye, but some of those other ones like Betty Boo and Felix, freaking surreal by today's standards. Those things are just, as an adult, when you watch them, you think, oh my, this is weird. My brain's going to break watching this. But as a kid, you just accept it as being, oh wow, this is just funny pictures on a screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that we kind of like, not in like the super negative sense, but when you're a kid, like cartoon physics kind of gaslights you a little bit. Like not like I'm gonna imagine that if I jump off the roof I'm gonna bounce. Well, at least not like that. But like I don't know. Yeah, like I find I would you find yourself asking questions like, okay, I know that that's not real, but like what if, or if that's true for this world of this cartoon character, what else does that mean? What else like applies to it? And I don't know, it's a weird kind of different set of logics that you try to deal with. Or maybe I just was fucking weird.
No, that's
I don't know.
There's like Bugs Bunny would like Elmer Fudd would try and shoot his gun, and Bugs Bunny might like put his finger in it, and it would blow up out the breech all over Elmer's face. And okay, so that's what happens if you put your finger in a gun. And you just think that's true. Yeah, Wile E. Coyote painting a tunnel on the side of a cliff, and then the Roadrunner runs through it. And don't tell me you didn't try that as a kid, you know, like trying to go into a picture or something. Like I tried it, and
The coyote though tried to follow the Roadrunner and went flat on the rock.
exactly.
So that you don't know if physics is going to favor you, so you don't try.
But the rockets on the
Fair warning.
skates, you know, like people actually do try that, and spoiler, it doesn't usually work very well.
I remember when I was a kid one time, like I don't remember what specific cartoon I got this from, but I remember like I thought it would be a funny visual to slowly back out of a doorway. My brother and my mom or whatever were there. And they would just see my face slowly like disappear behind the doorway as it closed. Like finally my nose would be the last thing to disappear. And as we were in a mall or something, and the door like it closed on my face and like pinched my face for a second. It was very painful.
Oh, babe. Oh, buddy. Oh, no.
That's far better.
I also did step on a rake, not realizing how fast it might come up and like smash me in the face.
See, this is different because you are actually a cartoon character. So this conversation is different for you.
It's always my ambition to be one. Yeah.
That's funny. I've stepped on rakes too by accident quite a few times, and it hurts.
Oh, dude, that hurts.
Yeah.
It's evil. So that is one example where cartoon and reality cross over. Sorry, Tance.
The most cartoony accident I've had is actually walking into a pole, because I wasn't looking ahead. I was looking to the side where there were some ruins in a square in the middle of Athens, and I was just looking at the ruins, and it wasn't, I guess, their fault. But if they expect, passers-by to look at the ruins as they walk by, you don't put a pole right in the way of the path. Anyway, that's what happened to me, and it really hurt. We don't really realize the force with which we propel ourselves in space. And actually, my glasses bent, and everyone was laughing, and I was both embarrassed and I hurt. And it's one of the worst things I remember. Although it was very funny for everyone else.
Yeah, it just goes wang, and it just like it holds you up short like a brick wall. Just you're not moving any more forward because this pole is just going no.
But that's exactly why cartoon physics are relatable, because they take those things that happen and they exacerbate it. And just so like exactly what's being conveyed. Like if a cartoon character were to walk into a pole and there's that dung, you know exactly why it sounds that way, even if it hasn't happened to you before. You get it,
Yeah. Though slipping on banana peels, that can happen. It's a lot rarer than it is in cartoons, though. They're constantly slipping. Like as soon as you drop a banana peel on the ground, everybody is slipping on that thing. 100%. Every time. You can slip on one, but it's not guaranteed. So don't use them as defensive weapons.
To Home Alone foil your the robbers that are trying to break into your house.
Swing those paint cans into their face without cracking their heads. Yeah.
That's another unrealistic thing, because a kid who would never be able. First of all, there was no time to do it. Second of all, a kid wouldn't be able to put up all these riggings and traps and stuff, and let alone I'm not even talking about conceiving of all the traps. Actually implementing them, like installing them, would be very hard.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
massive.
even I remember as a kid trying to lift, like what are those like 5 liter tins of
Pain.
paints? You
Mhm.
can't even do it, and he's got like several of them, like tied up on ropes and swinging all over his bloody house.
Yeah,
Little Macaulay Culkin, he was tiny. There's no way he
yeah.
did that.
And afterwards, the robbers were arrested and everyone. And the house, when the family arrived, was pristine. Like there was a cleaning service that went through.
Yeah,
So there was also that. Like
Oh,
everything magically returns to,
returns to perfect, pristine. Yeah. The other thing is about that house is people have caught on it as a like a bit of weirdness is the fact that they live, the McAllisters, I think they're called. They live in a gigantic house. It's huge, and their dad can afford to take all these like kids on this holiday to Europe.
Well, it wasn't just the dad. There was like a couple different adults in there and stuff.
yeah. I think there were like an uncle, two uncles as well, and they may have chipped in
Well,
to
I
make.
think part of the story is apparently that maybe the uncles paid for the whole trip. I think that's mentioned in dialogue somewhere. But still, that's like
Mm.
thousands and thousands of dollars for, flights and accommodation and stuff like this. And they've got this gigantic house, and you think, what kind of job must this fellow have to have such a big house? But that's another thing in fiction in general, in that exactly. But in fiction in general, people tend to stay in these amazing, expensive houses and things, and they don't have jobs that it could explain why they're living in it. So that's another trope that we accept, in
The
fiction.
writer that stays in a top tier apartment near Central Park with this great big window in the office where they just sit and they can see the entirety of Central Park, and they are just like a struggling artist. They are not yet um, established. So they are trying to find a publisher, but the only thing they do all day is write and be in that huge apartment.
Yeah,
yeah.
they can afford a life of leisure just from their writing, and it's incredible. Or yeah, as you say, like artists, bloody artists in movies. They have these huge loft apartments. It's a whole floor of a building, and they paint crap that they haven't even done an exhibition yet. They just can afford to just paint rubbish and hopefully get an exhibition. And what the hell? No, that's another one of those tropes of fiction that are there. But yeah, these I think they costed out like the apartments that the Friends have in Friends, and also Seinfeld, because they're in New York, aren't they? I know Seinfeld is in New York. I don't know where Friends is based. No idea.
I think so as well. Don't they live near Manhattan or something? I thought. I could be
Okay.
wrong.
I think so.
I don't know.
But yeah, so that in the kind of jobs those characters have, they couldn't realistically afford to live in those places. I think that's what people had worked out, and in Seinfeld as well. Maybe Elaine and George and they tend to have high-paying jobs, don't they, in that show? But all the rest don't.
Well, Jerry, I think it's kind of inferred that he's successful, isn't it? Or no? Because I know he's still a stand-up comic in the show, but maybe I don't know. Is he playing it
I
off
think
like?
he
I
was
guess it's not.
successful. In his character was successful, probably not as rich as the real guy is, ironically.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Well, he was
Going to play a poorer version of myself.
he was doing. I think in the show he was doing like stand-up gigs, but he wouldn't have been doing like one-man shows or proper big huge show. Like he wasn't touring. He wasn't going out and doing a big tour. He was just doing like gigs and then getting a spot on a TV show for 5 minutes or something. So He was moderately successful rather than,
It's a nice advantage of prose or even webcomics actually, where you're not stuck with building a set, that you have a lot of flexibility to shoot in. Like your character their environment can be whatever you want, and you can create whatever interesting camera angles you need to, without needing to sort of create this stage where a lot of your action has to happen.
And the lighting and all that kind of stuff. It's so important.
Yeah.
The direction lighting takes. Your characters don't age. That's another convention, isn't it? Characters that are immortal.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So you could do...
Old Betty and Veronica, still, and Archie and Jughead, still, are they 17?
Yeah, they'll never get out of school.
Yeah.
They're stuck in there. It's it's like some Hades kind of thing. Purgatory, that's it. Purgatory forever. But
Can we think of any cartoon that does age their characters? I'm curious now.
I think John Constantine in the comic. I haven't read it, but I think it was pretty well known for the fact that the character aged.
Oh, neat.
I think in real time, like as the comic series came out, I think he went from wherever they started, a 20-something, and he was in his 60s or 50s or something.
Oh,
I don't know
cool.
the exact ages because, like I said, I haven't read it, but yeah, I've read about that guy aged.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but rare. I can only think of that's the only one I can think of.
Oh, I don't know in comics, but they do it. Well, I think actually Captain America, didn't they age him? And then they reversed it with magic, but he got into a really old man in the comics.
Did he get into an old man? Let's read that one. Yes, please.
Oh dear. Yeah, he got eaten by one. It was in a graveyard. He stripped off, and he ended up inside several old men. But I know what you mean. Oh dear. But yeah, the immortality thing. In some things they do age. It's rare. It's really notable when it happens, and I've seen it happen a couple of times, but it's just zapped out of my head at the moment. I can't remember ones that they do it in. I don't know. I think I tend to prefer them when they don't. It is good when they do it, just as a notable exception. But I prefer it when they keep the characters immortal. Because the thing about fiction
all the classic, I mean, in the world of superheroes at least, sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
Now would be, they'd have to say, okay, well, who are the grandchildren of Spider-Man and Batman and all these other characters? We'd lose all these amazing icons,
Yeah.
Unless they were special. Like you could say, oh, Superman doesn't age. Well, it's like, oh, okay, but Lois Lane would be dead. His whole supporting cast would be gone. You have to create a new kind of status quo every few years.
Exactly. Yeah. They'd all fade away, and it would be a constant turnover. But the thing about this fiction is that it's a comforting thing for us, especially these long-running fictions. It's a comforting thing where you go out of your everyday reality into the fantasy, into your escapism, which fiction is useful, but not even just escapism, but it's into your comforting thing that you enjoy, and you don't necessarily want it to change. You just want it to have that same experience. So it's good when the characters aren't changing, and they're still the same, which is why a lot of people get really pissed off when they have reboots and new versions of things, because they just want their same thing. They just want to enjoy their same characters. They don't want new guy as Captain America. They just want the same Steve Rogers forever. Yeah,
that's the problem when you're doing live action movies. That's when you run into, in real life, Chris Evans is going to age. It's going to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's what happens. That's one of the annoying things about movies, where they get new frickin' actors every few years. You know, there's always a turnover because, you know, people age. This is reality. This is what happens. But you're sort of conditioned because of the immortality of film and fiction to sort of imagine that, oh, they don't need to age. Just stick Jude Law in everything. He was great in the 90s. Just keep on putting him in films. Just keep on sticking, you know, Keanu Reeves and, I don't know, Meg Ryan or whoever else. You know, just... Oh, Tom Hanks, I liked him back in the 80s. I want that version to still be in film. I don't like this new sad, serious guy. I just want that 80s clown from the Burbs. Just keep putting him in the films.
Yeah.
So yeah, the expectations of the you know, the unattainable fictional worlds pop up in all sorts of ways. Not just superhero costumes, but yeah, all sorts of things. What about the we were talking about the romantic films and all the crazy things that happens there. I think there was a lot of criticism of Edward from Twilight and how he watched Bella at night, and it was seen as being you know, sweet and romantic. But of course, it's quite a stalkery thing to do, to have someone, you know, watching over you as you sleep.
Yeah.
But that comes down to a lot of the tropes in romantic fiction, like the stalking, not leaving someone alone. What's that, Tance? Without your permission.
Being watched while you sleep without your permission, because you know,
You
if
might
you are
consent.
aware of it, I guess, I mean, if it's your thing, okay. I mean,
Right.
but the thing is that with a lot of these things, it's that within the partners, it's without their permission that things are being done, and it is being sort of packaged as cutesy, quirky, romantic, an expression of love rather than manipulation and stuff like that, which is really teaching people wrong tropes, let's say, about what constitutes a healthy, like courting, if you like.
Yeah.
Because all of this is courting. I mean, all romance movies are basically how a couple is in the courting period, whether they are, you know, Jane Austen level times or modern times. It still is about the same thing until this courtship reaches, you know, some kind of stable situation, usually marriage, or, you know, going steady or moving in or admitting that they are a thing that is more serious or something like that. So yeah, courtship is a nice thing, but, you know, if you get courtship done through fraud, through, you know, criminal behavior or harassment, yes, stalking, bullying, even, and things like that, then that's not courtship. Sorry. And, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, very true.
And like, especially the fraud, you know, you'll see these characters doing weird stalkerish behavior, like dressing up as people's mailmen in order to get close by delivering mail, or pretending to be a doctor or something like that to get close to people. Just this wacky hijinks. In reality, that's criminal behavior. That's like severely wrong, but it works in fiction.
Or even breaking into the person's place.
Oh, they do that all the time, especially if there's ever a message on an answering machine. I know we don't really have those now, but that was a big thing. Always, if there was, like, someone leaves a message on an answering machine and then they regret it, and then they have to break in to get it off. They did that in everything.
Oh, did they? I remember the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
Not a standard.
Yeah, that's pretty common. That's older than Seinfeld too.
That's a great sitcom trope idea.
Yeah, it's in movies. It's a great idea, but it's it's so bad in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's way worse to break into someone's place to try and get their answer machine thing off than it is to leave a nasty message.
Yeah, and you can leave a second message saying certain things like, I left the previous message and I hate that I did it, but let's talk about what made me do this for whatever reason. That's more straightforward. But
It is.
or the other thing, like having comebacks and jokes that are super witty, but actually, if you were to have those jokes directed at you, they would be very hurtful because they tend to be very abrasive in nature, and they are usually packaged not in romance necessarily. In general, if you have like a, a series where you're supposed to have a clever character, and the clever character shows that he or she is clever by making jokes that are, zingers and very witty comebacks, but it's actually verbal violence to a big extent. It's not actually, I mean, it shouldn't be, it can be funny, but it shouldn't be funny because it hurts people. So.
Yeah.
Well, true, and it's different.
I've fallen into that, man. That has happened. You're speaking right to me. I just want to address it because, like, that has definitely happened. I was going to say happened to me, but nothing happened to me. Like, I've tried to be funny so many times in life, and accidentally been mean. Where it's just like, no, it's just like I'm trying to be. I don't know. Yeah, TV ruined my brain. That's what I'm saying.
I can hardly picture that about you, Paige, but yeah.
You guys can take like humor. Also, I'm a much wiser man now. It's in my misbegotten youth I'm talking about, of course.
Well,
wasn't the perfect creature that I am today.
It's a little angel you are now.
Yes.
But on that kind of vibe, we have characters like it's comedic for a character to be a bit lascivious, and well, maybe not lascivious, like to try and ask a female character out. Maybe it's a dorky character asks a female character out, and she'll respond by kicking him in the balls or punching him in the face or something. And this is like it's like in the old days, this was pretty common in comics and cartoons and stuff like that. But in reality, go on, Tance. Yeah, Punch and Judy.
No, it's Punch and Judy stuff that has carried through the ages. So.
But in reality, that kind of response to someone asking another person out is horrific. That's asymmetric. That's you don't use
assault.
Yeah, you don't use violence if someone's asking you out. If they're being crude or horrible, then yeah, sure, like things can escalate. But not just if they're wearing their heart on their sleeve. To do that in a comedy, that's funny because you like tragedy is comedy. You like to see someone's hopes and dreams smashed sometimes. That's part of that. That's a comedic thing. But in reality, that's horrible to see someone punched in the face if they're they go,
yeah,
and I want to ask this lady out.
It's cruel, and I have to say I haven't really seen it in real life done as much. I mean, people when they are face to face, I haven't seen them at least not having an inhibition enough to keep them from responding that way. But where I have seen it happen in real life is social media. Like that's where, like in this area where it's not quite the reality somehow, but it is real enough. You get a lot of people emulating such characters and being like very witty by burning the character, not the character, the person that they are responding to, and seeking to find the ultimate burn, and feel accomplished
Yeah.
as a sort of entertainment to third parties watching. So
Yeah, we have to understand that people we interact with online are not cartoon characters. They're real
yeah,
people, and you can really make people upset badly if you treat them as cartoon characters. So yeah, reality and fiction, there is a bit of a cutoff point there. It's not a nice continuum, nice spectrum of different realities. No, fiction
I think,
is different.
yeah, I think that this whole witty, clever equals abrasive, and pretty much like the comebacks are very aggressively attacking in a sense, and saying it as it is because they call it as it is, stuff like that. This trend, I remember it becoming really prevalent since around House, where he was one of the first characters that was front and center as the genius that talks back and is a horrible personality. And but he expresses it very glibly, if you like. And then from that we have several iterations. There is like Rick and Morty now. I think I haven't actually watched it, like some clips, but I have seen. Um, Actually, these are very toxic situations and interactions. If a psychologist were to see that in real life in the office, they would absolutely do an intervention on that. So that is a very unhealthy way to interact with people
Well,
in
yeah,
general.
Rick is a horrible asshole, but he's meant to be, and he's not meant to be seen as a hero the way a lot of people see him as. I think probably House as well. They weren't meant to be seen as positive things. They're meant to be seen as people who are damaged and wrong and awful. But
But when you have House, the reason that people saw him as the one that is, on the pedestal is that everyone revolves around him in a way where he's being almost worshipped even by people that hate him, and he doesn't get real quote unquote repercussions about being for being the way he is.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have any repercussions. He only has reinforcement. Even, the whole, oh, I'm vexed, I'm a tragic character and stuff, that doesn't really do anything in his being where he wants to be and doing what he wants to do and having his way the way he wants to have it. So, of course, and having a troop of followers that basically worship him one way or the other. Even when they abandon him, they worship him. That is fascinating. Yeah.
But yeah,
a lot of those types, like the Seinfeld characters, would behave that way, but those characters would be punished for acting that way. So House, I haven't seen House, but that might be a good example of a beginning. Someone who can act that way, but they don't get like karma.
Well, Blackadder too. He was a beautifully acerbic, evil character, but he would get his comeuppance, and things wouldn't work out for him. But he would be a terrible, terrible ass to everybody, which is why we loved him. But
yeah, and he was very entertaining, but he never, like he is never portrayed as anything but a scumbag that will get foiled one way or the other, and you actually expect that. That's part of the joke in every episode. Like nothing works out for him, even though he's quite intelligent, and he doesn't. He's not within that trope because the others that are around him don't really worship him ever. Even Baldric doesn't worship him.
Percy does in the second series somewhat. Oh, and Captain Darling. Is he Captain? Maybe
Captain
Lieutenant.
Darling is the one being worshipped. No, yes, that was in the third one.
Yeah,
Not the third.
something, the one played by Hugh Laurie.
Oh, that was Prince George, or George in general.
George, yeah, he's George in the third one as well, but he's a
Doesn't worship him. He either is his superior and uses him, or he's his like a second in command or something, and he just takes orders.
Well, he does look up to Blackadder. Anyway, this call is going to end, so thank you very much for listening to our QUACKCAST number 560 on our the differences between reality and fiction. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao. Yeah, it's been a lovely call. See you guys, and thank you very much for listening to all of us.